is in principle a commendable initiative if adequately resourced and efficiently implemented. The project under this flagship program of the NDC government have the potential to significantly improve connectivity and open up key economic corridors across the country. As such, we on the minority side are not opposed to the policy itself. Our concern, however, lies with the process through which the initial 50 projects have been awarded, particularly given that these projects are expected to cost the taxpayers approximately 50 billion, as indicated by the President in his 2026 SONA. In this regard, we strongly believe that government must, as a matter of urgency, should publish the full details of this contract. This should include the identities of the contractors, the specific scope of work assigned to each contractor, and the unit cost per kilometer. This will give Ghanaians the opportunity to independently assess the policy and promote transparency in infrastructure delivery. It is important to recall that these are issues that the current government spoke vehemently about whilst in opposition. There is therefore a legitimate expectation that once in government, higher standards of policy transparency will be upheld. Unfortunately, the current approach appears to mirror the very practice that were previously criticized. This does not bode well for governance and undermine public trust. Transparency remains a cornerstone of good governance. Where processes are open and information is accessible, public confidence is strengthened and unnecessary suspicion is avoided. However, when Ghanaians perceive the decisions have been taken in secrecy and things were done quietly out of public eyes, it inevitably breeds suspicion, and even in situations where no wrongdoing may have occurred, because of the lack of openness, creates room for doubt and speculation. We on the minority side are well aware of the average and the highest cost of constructing a kilometer of bitumen surfacing road. Similarly, we are knowledgeable about the cost range for asphaltic overlays. Depending on the thickness and the design specification, the scope of work. The same applies to dual carriageways, where both the average and upper bound costs are clearly known to us. Establish benchmarks within the road construction sector provide a useful reference. For instance, the cost of a kilometer of bitumen surface road typically ranges between $400,000 and $650,000. Surface dressing road generally costs between $600,000 to $800,000 per kilometer. Similarly, single carriage asphaltic overlays cost between $1.2 million and $1.8 million per kilometer.
That's the minority in Parliament earlier this week, making clear demands of the Minister of Roads and Highways to give details of exactly what entails in this big push project, the number of contracts that have been awarded under the big push, and also, as is indicated, to avoid any doubts and suspicions. But it comes on the back of this Fourth Estate publication this week regarding some contracts that were sole sourced, and also taking into consideration, as they have published, the political position of the National Democratic Congress NDC about sole source contracts prior to coming into government. They have raised issues regarding, for instance, how much a kilometer of roads is costing or has been costed based on the information that was given to them. And I'm talking about the Fourth Estate in this particular publication that they put out this week. That has generated some conversation about sole sourcing of the contracts. What exactly is the watchword? What is the caution? And what should be the way forward? we would have a voice to speak to this matter. The Deputy Minister in charge of Roads and Highways will be joining us this morning to respond to some of the issues that have come to the fore regarding this matter. Contracts valued over 73 billion Ghana cedis, according to this publication, were awarded within 7 months under the Big Push initiative. And that's approximately 76% of the contracts awarded between September 2025 and February 2026, according to the publication this week, were through sole sourcing. Well, we'll have a conversation on this matter here on The Key Point. Also, the minority in Parliament this week have given indication of their decision, together with some civil society organizations, to petition the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, that is SRAJ, regarding the president's continuous use of the private jet belonging to his brother, Ibrahim Mahama, linking it to the impending award and also the matters relating to the diamond mines. Is there correlation? Is it a matter of conflict of interest that the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice should be looking into? And then also the matters they raise regarding what they say is an unfair allocation of state resources to Ibrahim Mahama, the brother of the president, and some businesses that are owned by him. Well, we'll have a conversation this morning on this matter, because this is not the first time the minority is raising questions about the use of the private jet of Ibrahim Mahama by the president. Also, this morning, there's a new voter preference survey conducted by the Global Info Analytics, putting the Minister for Finance, Dr. Kasiela Toforcing, in the lead as the most favored figure if there was a consideration of who is to lead the NDC today, that is within this period. Well, that, together with other issues, were captured in this particular survey by Musa Dankwa, which was released on Thursday. He will be joining us this morning to have a conversation on this matter here on The Key Point. As always, you are part of the conversation, an integral part of it. There are so many ways that you can join us with your thoughts, your views, your comments and opinions. There are so many ways on Facebook, on X, and on our WhatsApp channel as well. So connect with us. I am Alfred Okanse. Welcome to The Key Point. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. We're back shortly after this quick break. The conversation starts right now. Stay.
Adisa Plus Parental Control helps you manage what your kids can watch. Open settings and select parental control. Enable the feature and create a 4-digit PIN. Choose the maximum content rating you're comfortable with. Any content above this rating will require the PIN. Restricted titles appear locked across the app. Trying to play restricted content prompts for the PIN. Correct entry unlocks access for that session. Multiple incorrect attempts can temporarily lock access. Parental control on Adisa Plus. Available now. Adisa Plus. Safe streaming your way. Adisa Plus Parental Control helps you manage what your kids can watch. Open settings and select parental control. Enable the feature and create a 4-digit PIN. Choose the maximum content rating you're comfortable with. Any content above this rating will require the PIN. Restricted titles appear locked across the app. Trying to play restricted content prompts for the PIN. Correct entry unlocks access for that session. Multiple incorrect attempts can temporarily lock access. Parental control on Adisa Plus. Available now. Adisa Plus. Safe streaming your way. Adisa Plus.
Sole sourcing even is acceptable if in situations where there is the need to extend the implementation of works which were previously competitively procured to speed up completion. Though the 23 projects I talked about that we innovated, none of them were competitively procured. They were also source contracts, but which were innovated at the cost of 14.8 billion Ghana cedi. Mr. Speaker, given the scale, urgency, and national importance of these projects, a mix of procurement methods were employed in accordance with the law. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that only 44% of all the major contracts included in the Big Push contract were awarded by the ministry under sole sourcing. 44%. So not what has been published by a certain online portal. We have also awarded over 400 different contracts through open competitive bidding, over 400, which is unprecedented because the record shows that from 2017 to 2024, almost all projects that the ministry carried out were sole sourced. Almost all the projects were sole sourced. It will therefore be mischievous for any right-thinking member of society to conclude that the Ministry of Road and Highways only procures work through sole sourcing. Mr. Speaker, I have already mentioned the deplorable state of the road network across the country we inherited from our colleagues. This had brought untold hardship to the motoring public and contributed massively to the food inflation. This led to public agitation and the survival of the state. Mr. Speaker, something needed to be done and done urgently. Mr. Speaker, with dedicated funding already secured under the Big Push program, was both prudent and necessary to proceed swiftly to ensure value for money and avoid cost overruns associated with long procurement and implementation timelines. Mr. Speaker, most of the project would not have started until date if we hadn't adopted a faster route. Mr. Speaker, the following projects, for example, wouldn't have been continued or started. The Kaswa-Winneba and then Kaswa Interchange Road, which is in my good friend, the minority leaders constituency. The dualization of Winneba Cape Coast, the Swami Interchange project, which was stalled, but now has gotten a new life. The Kumasi Outer Ring Road and the Ofankor and Nsawam Road are part of this. Mr. Speaker, we put in place the following mechanisms to ensure value for money in terms of cost, quality, and longevity. Contrary to the practice under the previously under the Big Push program, agencies did their own survey, design, costing, and saving billions. Mr. Speaker, I say this because in the past, this project would have been designed and built. Mr. Speaker, by asking the agencies to actually do our design costing, we have saved at least 5% of the cost of the project. So we started saving money on this project, making sure that the country gets the best in terms of the value for money. Contractors were then invited to submit proposals. Their proposals were then subjected to independent value for money assessment. We have instituted a stricter monitoring and cost control mechanisms to ensure we only pay for works done. Mr. Speaker, we have now established a system where no contractor will walk away with a cedi without working for it.
Well, that's the Minister in charge of roads, Governs Kwame Agboja, there, giving details and some justification for this decision to award road contracts through sole sourcing, which has become a big matter of conversation this particular week on the back of what the Fourth Estate put out after some information we understand that was requested of the Roads and Highways Ministry, in fact, was giving, and then also the details that was gleaned out of that particular information, pointing to the number of road contracts awarded through sole sourcing. This is a big agenda for the NDC government, the big push, big money, but is this sole sourcing decision a big issue? Those are the big things that we're talking about. Big agenda, big push, big money, $10 billion that's allocated to this between 2025 and 2028. That's how much government has estimated to spend in executing this big agenda of the big push with this big money, $10 billion. What we've seen over the period, and based on the information that both the Finance Ministry and then also the Ministry of Roads and Highways has been giving, this is the allocation yearly for this big push that has been projected. Last year, we saw some 13.9 billion Ghana cedis that was allocated in the budget when the finance minister read the mid-year budget review for the big push. We're going to be finding out how much of this amount has been spent, this 13.9 billion, because remember these are allocations, but it doesn't necessarily mean that maybe all the full amount of 13.9 billion would be, as it were, disbursed. So we'll be finding out exactly how much has been spent as of now from this 13.9 billion. How many contractors have been paid, how much have they been paid. And then this year, we're seeing in this budget, it's an allocation of a little over 17 billion Ghana cedis, 2027 over 19.3 billion, 2028 over 21 billion. That is what we're going to be expecting, all things being equal, in the allocation to this big push project. And because of the big monies involved in this big push, obviously, you would expect that eyes and ears and questions about accountability would obviously be a focus of attraction. And that's why this conversation is important this morning. If you look at how things have been playing out regarding this particular big push, based on the information that we have, the new road projects, as the minister keeps referring to that, the new big push, 54 road projects would be constructed under this big push. Total 54. That's about 55 billion Ghana cedis that has been costed. And then those road projects that were inherited from the previous administration, that's about 23 of them the ministry has identified, would be continued and completed. And the cost they put to it is a little over 15 billion Ghana cedis. And we're going to get some more details as we go on regarding these numbers that I'm putting out. So 54 new projects under this new big push, 23 inherited from the previous administration. And these are the funding sources. Because you recall that last year when we were asking questions about the funding source for the big push, right from the campaign period or ahead of the election 2024, when the NDC was talking about the big push and then the big monies that were allocating to it, and then when we got to know as well, when the mid-year budget review was read and then that $10 billion was put out, we asked questions, where are you going to get the money? Then they pointed us to these sources, 3 of them. 1, the mineral royalties. 2, the annual budget funding amount. That's the money that we get as a country from the oil revenue that we allocate for specific projects. Government has the prerogative to decide where they put that ABFA. 24% of that money from the annual budget funding amount is going to be pushed into the big push. Then the government of Ghana also putting out some amount of money as well into the big push. But questions we're going to be finding answers to is that these mineral royalties that we're banging our hopes on, we've seen that gold has brought us a lot, at least. Last year we saw how much gold brought into the economy, 21 billion. Now, what we are seeing this period, at least for the last 3 weeks, we've been tracking the price of gold on the world market. It's been declining. So what's the fallback plan for government? So much that if this projected amount that they expect from mineral royalties, all things being equal, if we see mineral royalties not going as high as suspected, if gold doesn't bring out this much, and then we've seen what's happening with cocoa as well. Crude oil, at least, we've seen crude oil prices trend upwards because of what's happening between the US, Israel, and Iran. When that happens, government revenue from oil goes up, but then we see the price of petroleum products as well going up at the pumps. It affects our pocket. But when it comes to government revenue, it's going to go up. So these 3 funding sources is what government has told us they're looking at for the big push. Now, the big question for the big push with the big money is the decision for the sole source of some 44% of the contracts, the road contracts awarded by this administration. What's the big issue there? That's what we're going to be finding out this morning. Joining us is Honorable Andrew Ejapa Kofi Mensah, is the former 2nd D Member of Parliament, also the former Deputy Energy Minister, former Minister in charge of Tourism, and he's joining us in the studio. Honorable Andrew Ejapa Mensah, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's been a long while.
It has been a long while.
Because of your character, we have to stay up for a while.
We've always been friends. We've always been friends. You perceive something differently. But it's good to have you. It's good to have you.
Sure. Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. Also joining us is Martin Pebo, is private legal practitioner. Also the convener of the Kumi Preko Reloaded demonstration, is joining us, a member of the oral preparatory team. Council, good morning.
Morning. Excuse me. Morning, Mr. Okansi. Yeah, it's good to be here once again. And like we always say, this is Ghana's #1 talk show, unparalleled and uncontested. And as usual, we will do a bit of the rituals. Yeah, we want to thank Toby Afede, right? We all remember the days when Akufo-Addo had us by the, excuse my French, balls. He did what he wanted of us, but a few of our citizens stood up. And Toby is one of those, right? Yeah, he spoke his mind. He showed the bad governance. We also thank Yasan Tuaso for Akufo-Addo's own relation, who could tell Ghanaians that this Akufo-Addo's governance was bad. Yeah, notwithstanding the fact that she had been made Chief Justice and she's a relation. And that's what we want to continue to repeat, to urge Ghanaians to be more objective. Let's not think about the stomachs alone. Let's not think about our wives and kids alone. But the Ghana project is more important. The same to Osi Adeyo Ajimambedu, the second Domahini, and Kinteki Teku through the second Gamanche. Right, now men above 40, please do the proceed check. Yeah, we'll continue to announce so that, we can avoid needless deaths. Right?
It's important.
And then finally, people who pee outside, right? Men and women, please stop. We've gone past those days. Find a bottle for the guys, okay? Put it in your car. You don't have a car, put it in your back, this is sack, right? Yeah? So that when the need arises, you can use it. But to pee outside in the full glare of other people, it's not on. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, Andrew Ejapa Mensah is looking at you in a state of wonder. He's wondering. No, but this advocacy.
I said it when we went to Sammy Jeffrey's in-laws funeral. He said when we meet on the program, he was going to crash me. So I can imagine that he's prepared.
I'm not sure we had any such conversation. But I watch you from time to time, and you don't cease to amaze me.
Yes, that's the democracy.
I'm not so sure whether that in itself necessarily is democracy. Look, the way and manner with which you describe Akufo-Addo's governance, your view, I disagree.
That's it. So that's democracy.
Because, but we can be, if you like, much more civil in our attacks. Look. Anyway, let's
all right.
Let's proceed.
The Honorable Alhassan Suhini is also with us.
I didn't know that election results were a measure for necessarily people's governance style. Because we have Mr. Mahama, he lost miserably in 2016. Today he's president again.
Because you came and performed West, you resurrected Mama. So that's the problem.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much.
It's going to be a long day, I can see.
Thank you very much. Indeed. Honorable Alhassan Suhini is Deputy Minister in charge of Roads and Highways. Honorable Alhassan Suhini, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. But I don't think that it is fair for my friend and brother Ejapa Mensah to describe the opinions of, lawyer Martin as uncivilized. I mean, to say that it's uncivilized, exactly. I think that,
That's why they lost. It's no problem. That's why they lost.
Yes, okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
To be here.
Thank you very much. Let's now keep focused.
Right.
Thank you. Now, there's a reason why we got you in here, and it's for good reason, for that matter, because of some of the issues that have come with this big push. But before we start going into the meat of the decision about source sourcing and so on, where are we with the big push agenda? This all of these projects that you outlined, where are we with, just generally?
Well, thank you very much once again, Okansi, and good morning to my colleagues on the panel. And I must say that Lawyer Kpebu is looking very sharp.
Absolutely.
I like the outfits this morning. And let me say good morning to our viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. And Alfred, I can say that as we speak, all these projects are at various levels of completion. There is no project that has been awarded under the big push that currently is not being pushed bigly. Almost all the contractors are on site and are at various stages of works. I know the last time, I think a couple of weeks ago, we at the ministry invited the contractors to give us an update. In fact, these are not projects that are awarded and, left until when we are expecting contractors to finish work before we go to inspect. So we invited them to give us an update of progress of work. And they came around, and the contractor at the time, a couple of weeks ago, that was leading in terms of works done, had already reached about 50% of completion. And for us, that is very impressive. And we encourage those contractors who were, in our view, per their presentation, performing very well, to continue with those good works. Those that we had issues with, we even threatened at the time to terminate some of those projects. And we wrote letters, warning letters, to those that were not impressed with as far as the progress of work was concerned. And so these are contracts or projects that His Excellency the President is not toying with. And contractors who are, fortunate enough to be part of this agenda are fully aware that this government means business. And because there are no qualms about, terminating these projects, we are not toying with quality, we are not toying with pace. And we have the assurance also that the finance minister will do good and honor the promise of paying these works on time. And so many contractors, I'll tell you, haven't seen the level of supervision that they are seeing now over these projects. Quite apart from the presentation in the office, we also outlined a plan to go to the field. So we're not just going to take their word for it. And so we started the field tour, and then we got word that His Excellency the President himself wanted to be part of it. And that is how
going to the field.
Exactly. That is how come we paused ours and began the tour with him in the Brong-Ahafo region only recently when he went there. So he himself has indicated that he wants to be on the field with us to see for himself how the contractors are performing.
When you announced that you're not going to be paying mobilization, some of the contractors that we spoke to raised issues with that. Are you still sticking with that decision, not to pay mobilization?
Well, there has been some arrangement, but you see, it was for good reason that we, at the point, decided that mobilization was not necessary, and we will come to that. Alfred, in selecting some of these contractors, we were mindful of the debt that we owed them. Because when we inherited governance, we inherited it with assets and liabilities. And at the road sector, we had an over 50 billion arrears that we inherited. And so we were looking at the contractors who were owed and why they were owed. And we found out that some of these contractors had actually carried out very impressive works in their country, but were not paid. Their capacity was not in doubt, their quality of work was not in doubt, and their inability to move to site was simply because, they were not paid. In fact, some of them were already on projects that had come to a standstill because of lack of payment.
I see.
And so we decided that if we wanted them to be on Big Push, and we committed to paying them the arrears, then there was really no need giving them mobilization because it is resources that they wanted to go to site. So if, for example, a contractor is owed 1 billion Ghana cedis, and the contractor has an ongoing project or not, doesn't even have an ongoing project,
yes,
and you want such a contractor to do a Big Push project, what is the sense in leaving the arrears of 1 billion and giving the contractor 500 million mobilization?
Okay.
When the debt is still in your books, why don't you rather pay maybe the 1 billion and then, urge the contractor to mobilize to start to work and start work so that when he raises a certificate, you will pay within time so that it will no longer be an arrest.
But
So
how much in total value did you inherit in terms of the inherited contracts from the previous administration? How much do you have?
In terms of, well, for example, I know that we had a commitment basis of about 100 billion Ghana cedis.
100 billion
100
Ghana
billion,
cedis.
over 100 billion Ghana cedis, commitment basis. Then we had over about 60 billion Ghana cedis of arrears. That is arrears that, came as a result of works done. So IPCs that were, waiting for payment. That was about 60 billion. But commitment, like the contracts that, they were distributing contracts like Massa. They were just simply, signing contracts and giving people projects without, any plan as to how to pay those contracts.
So what's happening to this? Have you made payments, this 60 billion cedis you talk about?
Exactly. The finance minister, together with His Excellency the President, has facilitated for over 10 billion of the arrears that we inherited to be paid last year alone. And that is the single biggest arrears that any government in the history of this country has ever paid to contractors in this country.
Over
you can
10
imagine
billion
inheriting arrears of about 50 billion, and within 1 year, you have paid more than 10 billion of that. It has actually, energized the industry and given a lot of confidence to contractors in the industry that we indeed mean business when we say that when they execute works, we will not allow payments to delay.
This 13.9 billion that you allocated in the 2025 budget, how much of that has been expended?
I didn't get that.
This 13.9 billion, that's what you announced in the 2025, the mid-year at least.
Right.
How much of that has been expended? How much of that have you paid contractors from? How much is left going into this year?
Well, so what it is that the Big Push projects were captured under a different budgetary arrangement with the finance minister. So if you have 13.9 billion, what it means is that that was a space within which the ministry had to award projects. And those projects were awarded. And the commitment we gave was that if contractors raised certificates within that period, they were going to be paid from this 13.5 billion, 9 billion that we were expecting from the revenues that the finance minister projected. Now, unfortunately, what happened was that because of the, I would say, delay in awarding the contracts, many of these contractors by end of 2025 were not able to raise any certificate that, the finance minister could pay. And it is the reason why the finance minister then decided that once they had not mobilized enough and worked enough to raise certificates, then it became reasonable to now give them mobilization. And that mobilization had to be supported with a bank guarantee from these contractors so that we could redeem it, because the funds were available. And once the funds are available and it cannot be used for anything else because Parliament has said so, apart from big push, then it became reasonable to now go into an arrangement with the contractors to give them mobilization, and that is being worked on.
I see. I needed that clarity because of some other matters as well that we're going to be getting into. But from what we are seeing now, based on the funding source that you have indicated for all of these road projects, mineral royalties, ABFA, Government of Ghana. With what we are seeing on the world market, with gold prices now going down, even though there's been clear projection that the price of gold would rise, all things being equal, going into the next quarter, 2026. What's the fallback plan if the projections don't go right with the mineral royalties?
Well, unfortunately, Alfred, and maybe I should be happy with that. That is not my cross to carry at the Ministry of Roads. It is the finance minister's responsibility to ensure that funds are readily available for these projects. And so I'm sure as we speak, he's already doing the simulations and looking at possible shortfalls and how those shortfalls can be supported with alternative means of funding these projects. I mean, from all indications, we can all agree that so far he has demonstrated a clear understanding of how this economy works. And I will not be surprised if he has already done simulations and has answers to the question you are asking. But because I am not a finance person, I will not be able to tell what the fallback plan is, assuming these revenues that are expected are not met. But I am very confident that Honorable Attoforsen and his team will be looking already at some of these fears that we all have as a result of the plummeting of gold prices and the increase in fuel prices.
I see. Now, let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Kwame Edem Senanu, is a chairperson of the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption. Congratulations is in order, even though this is not new in a sense, but also the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Mr. Senanu, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tim.
Senor Hosi is, first of all, as says, a passionate Ghanaian, number one, a finance person who has passion for understanding what governance really means and what it should mean to the Ghanaian people. He is also one of the conveners for the One Ghana movement. And for the purpose of this conversation, he served in the capacity of a board member of the Ghana Highways Authority in the previous Akufo-Addo administration. So it's important to have. Ms. Ozzy, good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
It's been a while indeed.
So those who have been saying you don't see me today, you can see me. I didn't go anywhere else.
Indeed. Thank you, gentlemen.
It's good to see my president too. Mr. President, this is your new hat. We have to interrogate it. You have left me behind. Is that your life?
It's a change because yours is nicer, so I've left that category to come.
You said it's a change, so this is part of your reset agenda.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. Now, Honorable, I realized you were putting down a few things before we get into the matters of soul sourcing and what the Fourth Estate put out. Quickly, if you want to.
Good morning to my colleague panelists and to our cherished viewers. You see, Hassan, it's important that when we are speaking to matters of public record, at least we are candid and not exaggerate figures. Okay, because there's publicly available. You say that commitments, then in the road sector and debt, 100 billion commitment, debt 50 billion that you inherited. Clearly it's untrue. Because, look, there's publicly available information that the finance minister himself, in his own budget, that the commitments that you inherited across central government, not only in the road sector, was 67 billion that they've been auditing. In fact, the president himself is on record. City TV, unpaid bills for contractors in the road sector as of December 2024 stood at 20 billion. So where is this 50 billion from? Where is it coming from? Please, let's be true with the figures so that we can situate the conversation in their proper context. That would be my comment on all the things that he said relating to the progress of work.
You see, we have two different areas. Okay. There's the road fund areas and there's the GOG areas. Right. And I'll break it down. I'm looking for the exact figures, please, and I'll share with you.
Please.
Perfect. Now, when we get that, when you're able to access that, then we'll get into the full details of it, because it's important so that we understand. Because we're talking about these projects, the 23 projects that you inherited, that you say that regardless of when it was awarded, you're still going to go ahead with it because it is for the greater good. Yeah. It is to benefit the Ghanaian people. So you're adopting this and continuing to execute and complete these projects that the SWAL administration awarded to contractors. And you're going to start 54 new road projects. Yeah. Now, these 54 new road projects, while you look for this document that you're asking for, have you found it?
Not yet.
Okay, perfect. These 54 new projects that we talk about, do you have an idea? Are you able to give us an indication of how many of them have been started or awarded, for that matter, and currently being executed?
All have been awarded.
All 54?
All 54 new road projects have been awarded. And contractors are on site. That is what I said earlier, and they are at various stages of completion. Now, you know, when I saw the Fourth Estate publication the first time, I was eagerly awaiting to find out what the scandal was going to be.
Yes, because they had first put out, some preliminary information and so on.
They kind of advertise a scandal.
But really, the heart of their publication is about value for money. Right? They talk about some 107 projects, or that's contracts, that they requested information and you give them. Yeah. Because that's the source of the money. You give them the information, the ministry. Yeah. 107 projects. Yeah. Out of that, as many as 81 were awarded through sole sourcing.
Yeah.
How do you explain this?
Yeah, so you see, they advertise a scandal. And we're waiting for the scandal because they wrote to us and requested information regarding these contracts. And we promptly responded without any qualms at all, as the law, requires us to. And even before that, we had started uploading these contracts and information on our website. And so we really didn't think that there was a need for anybody to even write to us in the first place for it, because once it's on our website, it's public property. And we are under no obligation whatsoever at our ministry to upload such information. But just for the sake of transparency and accountability, we decided to upload the information. And so we were anticipating what the scandal was going to be. Then, Alfred, my first disappointment was that the first publication suggested, as if to say, that if you criticize something in the past and you were seen doing it, that in itself is scandalous. With all due respect, I beg to differ, even if that were the case. At best, you can say it's double standards. You can say it's hypocrisy. But you cannot say it amounts to a corruption scandal. I mean, that in itself is not enough. Like, okay, I said A was not good. And then I am doing A. Does A amount to corruption scandal? I mean, the mere fact that, assuming that is what the case was. In my view, I was like, wait a minute. I mean, assuming we even said in opposition that sole sourcing was bad and it wasn't good, and then we are doing it, is that a corruption scandal? That in itself, for me, is not enough to conclude that there is a corruption scandal. But is that even the case, Alfred? It is not. Because in opposition, what we said about sole sourcing, we still stand by it. We said that sole sourcing was wantonly being used, and sole sourcing, when it is used in that manner, has the ability to lead to inflated contracts, which does not only contribute to corruption, but also affects even the quality of work that, the people get. We still stand by that. So if you are going to do a comparison between the then and now, even within the context of what one said before and what one is doing now, I'll expect that you do that analysis contextually. But if you engage in an out of context, comparison, you will get your facts wrong.
So what this is out of context, because they reference the political position that you took about sole sourcing, not so much about the policy position per se, and some of the comments that your colleagues in the NDC made regarding sole sourcing. They captured Sami Jemfi and Samuel Okudzeto.
Okay, so that is
and this one, right? And this one, the page 6 of your 2024 manifesto says, quote, enforce compliance with the public procurement law to stop the abuse of sole sourcing and other breaches. That's what is on page 6 of. And then this is what the president said during the 2026 State of Nation address. Quote, Mr. Speaker, we are bringing legislation to this House to tighten our procurement processes by banning sole source contracts except in exceptional circumstances.
Right.
That's what the president said in the State of Nation address.
Right. So Alfred, what I'm saying is that when I saw the first publication followed by a video documentary, my conclusion was that it was as if you said sole sourcing was bad and you are found doing sole sourcing, then there's scandal of corruption. And I'm saying that is too simplistic, in my view. That conclusion is too simplistic. And when you look at the contextual comparison, listen to what they quoted in our manifesto, that we will enforce compliance with the public procurement law. In this case, what is the public procurement law? And that will stop the abuse of sole sourcing. We did not even say we will stop using sole sourcing. So if we are using sole sourcing sparingly, where is the scandal?
So
where is even the double standards if you do a contextual assessment? Because the promise was not to stop using sole sourcing. It was to stop abusing the use of sole sourcing. And so if you find us using sole sourcing, you have to point to an abuse before you can say that we have failed the promise. But if you don't point to the abuse, and we are saying that in this particular instance, we had over 80 projects, before us, and a content assessment or analysis of the processes that were used to award these contracts lead you to a conclusion that 44% was the only one that went for sole sourcing. That is stopping, the abuse of using sole source, when in the past, 100% was what was used for sole sourcing. If today, you see 40% used for sole sourcing, that is stopping the abuse. And then you ask yourself, is the 40% does the 40% meet the essential circumstances?
Is it 44%?
44%.
Okay.
44%. Does it meet the essential circumstances you promised you are going to use it for? That is where you can now have a conversation and say, look, you said that it was going to be exceptional circumstances. Now, we don't agree that even the 44% means the exceptional circumstances. But at least you will acknowledge that the abuse has been reduced to some extent, from 100% to about 44%.
So your
so that you are having, in that case, Alfred, you will be having, a progressive conversation of how to improve things in this country. But when you just conclude that you heard sole sourcing in the past was bad, you are hearing sole sourcing now, and so therefore there is a scandal. It is so simplistic, and it amounts to an attempt to, forcefully bring about an equalization that doesn't exist. With all due respect, clearly we decided, and even in their own publications, they indicated that some of these projects were inherited. Now, those projects that were inherited were about 23, 24 projects.
Yes.
These projects, when they were awarded on sole source basis, did not have a dedicated fund for it. And so when we took over, almost all the contractors had vacated sites. But we found out that they were critical projects that needed to be completed. In some cases, some of the contractors had done work over 50% work on those projects. And so we didn't think that it was reasonable to allow those projects to rot and the people of Ghana's the taxes wasted. And after all, it is even an obligation on every government under the principles of state policy to continue with projects that it inherited. And so we decided that we were going to take them on board and then novate them with a big push, agenda. And so you have Fourth Estate, suggest that these projects were also new projects that were awarded, as if they wanted us, Alfred, to have terminated the projects. I mean, what sense does it make that you have a contractor on site who has done work to about 50%, but has abandoned the project because he has not been paid for the work that he has done? Then government finds new money, and government now comes to open advertisement up for that project that a contractor is on and has done 50% and hasn't been paid. I mean, what sense does that make? Well, so they were simply asked to bring their projects, their contracts, so that we will update it to today's, currency, and award it under the big push agenda. And so they were not new projects that had to go through tendering. So you don't add, it is unjustifiable to add it to new projects that should have been competitively tendered. So if it is done sole source, it is that exceptional circumstance that we promise that we will use sole source, which is clearly under the law.
You see, and that's where I got on to this point. To be fair to the Fourth Estate, the big amounts allocated to the big push with this big agenda would obviously attract some big attention.
Absolutely.
So you don't take it away from them.
And it is fair.
To look into it. But then again, because you talk about the abuse of it and why you argue that from where we are coming from in terms of how many contracts were awarded under sole sourcing then by the previous administration and what is happening now, you think that there's an improvement. Your definition of the abuse is subjective, right? It's something that we can subject to some analysis going forward. But then again, this 81 sole source contracts that you awarded, you've had the Fourth Estate, not just the Fourth Estate, some others make the strong argument that it raised some questions. I mean, you should be telling us the exceptional circumstances that the 81 contracts were awarded under sole sourcing, because the law gives full details of the circumstances under which sole source contracts can be awarded, emergency situations. So, for instance, what's the emergency or the situation regarding roads, so much so as to warrant the award of a road contract under sole sourcing?
Now, I'll give you two reasons. I've given the first one and I'll repeat it. That when you look at the 76% on your board, the 81 contracts you are referring to, when you look at that component, you will find the contracts, the 23 contracts that we inherited are in there. Alfred, the 83 contracts that we inherited are in the 81 contracts that you suggest were sole source. And I've already explained to you the exceptional circumstance for which we needed to do that, because contractors were already on site, had carried out works, were not paid, and for which reason they abandoned the projects. And so it didn't make sense that if government was finding new money to finish the project, those projects had to be tendered. It didn't make sense. And I think that anybody who is logical and reasonable will understand that practical challenge of opening up a project that is already under contract. And in this case, it is the government that was failing, not the contractor. Because the contractor had done his work and was waiting to be paid. And then you get money and you now say, hey, the project that you have done up to 50% that we haven't paid for, we are going to open it up for tender. If you are interested, come and bid. I mean, I'm sure that some contractors would have told you that, pay me my money, I'm not interested. But you know that these contractors had the capacity to finish the work within time if they were given the necessary funding. And so it was simple. Just make sure that you bring their projects onto the big push project. And the previous government didn't have a big push agenda. And so the contract was not signed under a big push agenda. And so it needed to be brought to today's currency.
I see.
And that is how come the Minister of Roads decided to bring it onto the big push agenda. You have already indicated the funding sources for big push.
Yes.
And so if a contract like that is not signed under big push, it cannot get payment per the arrangement that the Finance Ministry has done, which Parliament has also supported with a law. And so it needed the contract as it existed under the MPP when we took over needed to be changed to the current terms that we operate with. That's the first exceptional circumstance. The second exceptional circumstance is to be honest with you, time. And we as the NDC promise that we're going to be very honest with the people of Ghana. And so we are not going to have qualms about this. The President, His Excellency, is the vision bearer of this big push agenda. And so you remember that even during the shortcutting, he indicated that these projects were not for wheelbarrow contractors. Yeah. And so His Excellency the President, and Alfred, you can go to town. The indication that we all got at the Ministry of Road was that he wanted these projects executed within time and with the quality.
And does that justify now why you're having 15 total contracts? And they strike the average, that 15 total contracts awarded per month, and 11 to 12 of these contracts awarded within that period under review.
You see,
were sole source.
You see, Alfred, that is the simplistic approach that my friends.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
I beg you, forgive me. No. We are using a terminology quite wrongly. Right. So I think we should get properly educated, or maybe you educated, so we get this clear. Yeah. There's a difference between single sourcing and sole sourcing. Yeah. In the instance of sole sourcing, the presumption in procurement is that it is an exclusive capacity that exists. You don't have anybody else who can do it. What Absolutely. You have there is largely proprietary. You understand? So, but single source means there may be options, but you take a decision to go with Mr. A or Mr. B. Right. I don't think that is what we are saying here. Roads in Ghana, for the most part, will not have a sole source situation. Right. It's likely only to have a single source situation. And Minister, am I wrong?
I agree with you, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's be careful.
We have a problem.
The technology sole source in itself is unknown to our law.
Yes, a single source.
It's single source. Yes. That's what our law.
Yes, but you see, Alfred, you see, the problem we all find ourselves in is that the Fourth Estate, with all due respect, I've done this job before, may have simply rushed us all to town to have this conversation. And so it has become very difficult for us to, understand the different terminologies and to do a fair assessment of how they are presented.
And the specific terminology they use
the example
in
that
their
you have
publication is so
for the purpose of this conversation, Alfred, I agree that we use the sole source. But you see, when you talk about 15 total contracts awarded per average month, that is the simplistic, approach that my very good friends at the Fourth Estate, are approaching. That is complicating matters. Look, all these projects that were awarded in fact, most of them were signed even on the same day. Okay. Because we had gone through the process together, and then when it was ready, it was signed. But when you take the contract and then you strike it at an average of 12 months, what are you seeking to achieve with that? You could even say they were signed the same day, and you still make the same impact you want to make. But why do you strike it across to make what impact? To generate, you see, Alfred, there is no government in this country or not in the world that will not have scandals. It is always about the approach. And so I am thinking that, look, if we are in a hurry to get a scandal, let us take our time. There's no way this government will survive 4 years without a scandal. But where there's no scandal, let us not force one. And the first exceptional circumstance that I gave you, Alfred, I was developing the second one of time.
They referenced the two, and that's at 663,
It doesn't even talk about so.
two strict conditions, single supplier availability.
Yes.
Or extreme emergency situations. Those are the two that they reference. So even though in their publication, and I make reference specific to their publication, the use of so that's what it, but I'll pull up the law. I'll put up the law. There are quite a number of them. I'll pull up the law. But in their publication, they use the sole source, and then you see. Then sole sourcing, in fact, you have it an exception to the rule with a strict policy emphasizing the emphasis placed on competitive tendering. Essentially, what they are trying to say is that in these emergency situations, that's why I asked the earlier question about what the justification was with the emergency situation, and you've referenced the time and then also the circumstances under which you inherited some of the projects, the 23 projects that you talk about, the contractors that were not paid previously. While you pull up that document, I know where Japan Messiah has been jotting down a few things. We'll get into that. And then also, Senor Hossi, on some of the matters that you've been raising as well, regarding the specific instance under which some of these contracts were awarded. It is the question of whether or not sold or single-sourced contracts for the correct expression of it, as against what was used in the publication being sole source, was it justifiable in the instances that have been outlined? Does it answer the question prior to this moment that you had? The reason why these sole source
not at all.
For the 23, for the 23, is that the question? For the 23,
for the 23,
not at all.
Why?
Because government is a continuum. Okay, these are contracts that have been executed between the government of Ghana and these road contractors. And so if a new government comes, all it has to do is to pay the outstanding obligations for the contractors to continue. And I hear this talk that you guys want to always put out to confuse the public, that there's no dedicated funding. What does it mean? Alasan, look, the government of Ghana runs a revenue and expenditure budget on a year-by-year basis. Okay? It is your revenue that you generate, that you expend. If there's a shortfall, then you borrow to meet the shortfall. So if the government of Ghana commits to contract to build roads, it is going to pay from its revenue that it generates. It's a question of allocation. Indeed, and in fact, they talk of no dedicated funding. Look at the table that, or the graph that you yourself put up. The pie chart. 51% of the so-called dedicated funding is coming from your budget. So what are we talking about? Let's not do this. In any event, those so-called novation contracts that you see you have done, where are they? Put them out for us to see. Disclose those novation agreements. In any event, how do you novate a contract between the same parties to themselves? How is that even done?
That doesn't make sense.
How does it even arise?
Why did you do innovation?
I'll explain to you.
Use the word innovation.
But that's what they use. It's not my words.
So nothing turns on the word.
Please.
Nothing turns on.
Please. What do you mean? What do you mean nothing turns on?
Nothing turns on.
Innovation is a legal term that they have
and
used.
I'll come to you.
That because these contracts, according to them, did not have dedicated funding. When already you have 51% of the funding that is going to fund these roads coming from the government of Ghana budget. In fact, all the items that are there are all government revenue. Mineral royalties is government revenue. ABFA is a formula that you apply that you can amend as and when, depending on the priorities that the government puts out. You can choose to do health, you can choose to do schools, you can choose to do roads. In times past, ABFA has been used to implement the free SHS policy and to build infrastructure in our secondary schools and all our education cycle. So let's not confuse the public. This is all government of Ghana money. And so if you say that because you inherited 23 contracts that were already running, and those contracts did not have dedicated funding, and so to bring them under this so-called big push,
I'm sorry.
you require some novation agreements to be done. Well, what does it mean? With respect.
I'll explain to you.
You can't, you see, you can't wish or explain it away.
No, I'm not going to explain it
If
away.
you
I'm
have
just going to tell
novated
you.
those agreements through whichever mechanism between the same parties, put those documents out and let's see it.
Alfred.
But,
No.
Oh, sorry.
am I done?
No. You can conclude
But
on the
you
point.
see,
So
this whole
you
first-
just put them
this
down.
whole
I just
fourth-
wanted to answer the question.
No,
of
please,
the-
you
you
note,
put them down and respond now.
note
Yes.
them.
Okay.
This whole fourth estate thing ought to be situated in its proper context, though. Because without that, we'll be running in circles. They did not advertise a scandal or a corruption. The advertisement that they put out is coming up. The ministry that has become factory for sole sourcing. That was what they put out. And why did they do that? The context is the promise that you made to the people of Ghana in the run-up to the 2024 general election. That Akufo-Addo government has abused sole sourcing so much so that when elected into office, sole source will practically be a thing of the past. In fact, they held the document and spoke contra to what was contained in their own documents. And I speak of Okujeto Ablakwa, my good friend, on Captain Smart's show, where he said, this reset agenda, he held it up. When we come, we are going to cancel sole sourcing. But of course, their manifesto said they were going to deal with the abuse, and I have the text here.
That's what I read.
Okay,
That's what I read.
Enforce compliance with the Public Procurement Act. What does it even mean? What does this phrase mean? The Public Procurement Act provides for sole sourcing. So if you say you enforce it, what does it mean? Yet you accuse your predecessor, who was complying with the law, of abuse. Now, how do you measure abuse? It's in the quantum. No. It can't be the value. Or you can even measure it in terms of the quantum of contracts that you sign and the value. You can do both.
The total number of contracts.
Absolutely.
And then the amounts involved.
Thank you very much.
But compared to what you had then and now.
I don't have a problem. Akufo-Addo's government is gone.
Okay.
It was voted out based on your commitment to the people of Ghana. So we can't do content comparison. We can't. We are holding you strictly to the commitment that you made to the people of Ghana. And that's exactly what the Fourth Estate sought to do with the work that they did. So they wrote to you that you are embarking on this massive infrastructure project across the country. Can you furnish us with the details of what it is that you've done? And you say that arising out of your quest to be transparent, you had already even begun uploading this information on your website. You heard him, right? And I printed a copy of the list that they uploaded on their website. The method of procurement is not included in the list that they have published on their ministry's website.
How the
procurement method is not there. It's not. They only give the region, the agency, the project, the kilometer length, contract sum, contractor, and award date. They did not disclose on their own website that all these were sole sourced. They did not. This is from your website. I extracted it and printed it this morning. So Fourth Estate requests through an ITR process for you to disclose. And by law, you're supposed to disclose. So you disclose. And they realize that contrary to the commitment that you made to the people of Ghana, that when you come into government, sole sourcing will be a thing of the past, with the president himself on 2 occasions at the State of the Nation address indicated that is exactly what he was going to do. He said he was going to bring a law to amend this.
No, so these were the words of the president.
It turns out,
except in exceptional circumstances.
He never said that he was going to ban it.
So I think the full the full complement
State
of the
of the
quote.
Nation address, the president in
no,
2025 and 2026.
Since you are referencing,
Look, I don't have a problem. I understand comprehension. Please. He says, Mr. Speaker, we are bringing legislation to this house to tighten our procurement process by banning sole source contract, except, I'm coming. But wait. I'm clearing my mind what I'm doing.
Except, okay.
I'm very, very clear in my mind. This exception is already in the existing law. That you accused your predecessor of having abused. So if you hold your manifesto and tell us that when you come, you are going to ban sole sourcing, we'll cancel it. And then the president turns around and come to tell us that he is going to bring legislation to do what is already in existence. What does it mean? This constitutes clear deceit. That's the point. And if you don't get that this constitutes